Hello, my name is Hennady Vilyavsky, and in this series of videos we are going to discuss various psychological types of character in reference to different types of esoteric consultations. If you are a practicing astrologer, tarologist or numerologist, but you don't have psychological education, I hope that this set of videos will be very helpful for you to better understand how the character of the client can influence our work. Well, you need to understand that any child is in great need of care from adults, and first of all from his parents. The type of this care will depend on the age of the child. First, it is the need of bodily contact, then the need for the presence in the child's active exploration of the outside world, and then attention, admiration, support, and the reasonable amount of frustration. The mother is always the most important adult. It is thanks to the interaction of the child and his mother that the whole basic foundation of the psyche is laid in the child. At some stage, the mother is the universe, and so it will be until the child develops his own universe, into which the mother still has to correctly release her child without sabotaging his natural need for separation. But what if, for any reason, a mother is unable to take care of her child's needs? There are many reasons why such a catastrophe can occur. A mother may be in postpartum depression when she does not have the strength not only to take care of the child, but even to notice him. This may be an incomplete family, and then the mother has to be at two jobs, and she cannot pay due attention to her child. This also includes all kinds of shocks and disasters which can befall the family: war, natural disasters, the death of a parent. In any case, the child finds himself in a situation where his needs are voluntarily or involuntarily neglected. And here we need to remember that a child perceives the world in a completely different way than an adult does. Let's take the following very common situation as an example. Suppose a small child has drawn a picture. His most important need will be to get the emotional reaction of his mother to his act. He immediately runs to his mother with this drawing and shows it to her. But mom at this moment is busy with something extremely important. For example, she is talking on the phone with someone from work, and a lot really depends on this call, including what she and her child will eat the next month. The child came at the wrong time from the point of view of the mother, but he doesn't understand adult problems. The world revolves only around the child and his desires, so the mother should evaluate his drawing this very second, and not when she solves all her adult problems. The mother dismisses the child, rejects him, says that she is not up to him now. At such moments, the child experiences strong frustration. He feels furious that someone else has taken his place at the center of his mother's universe. And we remember that the rage of a child at this age is total. He is so angry that he could have killed his mother, but he can't. On the one hand, she is still stronger than him. On the other, his survival depends on his mother. For a child, losing a mother figure is a much more serious problem than not receiving encouragement for a well-drawn picture. So he swallows his rage and goes back to his room. For half a day he will be offended, but then he will forget about this incident. And there is nothing wrong with this situation if it is one time. But if it is chronically repeated, then irreversible changes begin to occur with the child. At some point he decides that his desires are too great, that they threaten to destroy those adults on whom he is completely dependent. Sometimes the following text sounds in the family: "Look what you did to your mother." Adults often don't think at all when they say things like that. But this only strengthens the child in the idea that his needs, to which he has every right to satisfy, are something prohibitively expensive and unbearable. Of course, the compromise that the child will make is quite expected. He learns not to notice his needs, to repress and ignore them, so as not to experience such painful disappointment every time. The child does not want to cost his parents dearly. What if one day they get tired of taking care of him, or he exhausts them with his desires to death? It's better not to want anything at all. Such a child matures very early and learns to serve himself. He constantly runs the risk of asking for help. On the one hand, it hurts to face rejection so often. On the other hand, what if this request will be the last drop in the cup of patience of parents, after which they will think that he cost them too much, and that it is better to get rid of him once and for all? At this age, the child learns a strategy that then will constantly manifest itself in adulthood and cost a person huge problem. The child learns to take care of his parents. He symbolically changes places with them. Any child is sensitive, but instead of noticing and being able to indicate his own needs, he learns almost at the level of telepathy to guess what mom and dad wants and try very hard to please them. Thus, the child emphasizes his own indispensability, but in fact he ensures himself against being abandoned. If he wants nothing for himself, and also constantly helps his parents and takes care of them, then it will be very difficult to leave him. Own hunger becomes the main enemy of such child. He can't just voice his desires, he can't even feel them. Of course, over time, the child does lose this extremely important ability to feel what he wants. Later, it becomes almost impossible to answer this question, as the focus of the child is irrevocably shifted. Such a kid knows perfectly well what his parents want, but he already has no idea about what he wants himself. The oral character in an adult is characterized by constant swing. On the one hand, a person feels simply overwhelmed with a resource. It seems to him that there is so much warmth, care and love in him that he can warm the whole world around. In the take-give balance, everything shifts to the second pole. The oral character is constantly doing something for people around him. He constantly feeds everyone. That's why actually this character is called like this. But at the same time, he himself always remains chronically hungry. However, he has certain manic nature in the desire to help everyone and take care of everyone. So he simply does not feel this hunger. But then the swing begins to move to the opposite direction, and the oral character suddenly runs out of all the resources, and complete tiredness and apathy sets in. And this is not surprising, because despite all the nobility of his intentions, he simply does not have so much strength and resources to help everyone. Fatigue will certainly catch up with him, and it will be utter fatigue, when there is not enough energy for anything at all. Of course, this happens, among other things, because the oral character cannot notice fatigue in time. He was used to ignoring his own condition. He is like a horse that will run until it simply falls down exhausted in one moment. When an oral character builds a relationship with someone, he will have a tendency to choose wounded partners. This is done for several important reasons. Firstly, such people need it because for some reason they cannot take care of themselves. The wound here should be understood as broadly as possible. It may be caring for really physically disabled people, but this is not always the case. More often, a psychologically flawed person with one or another defect in character is chosen. And the favorite type here will be addictive people, whom the oral type will stubbornly save. Another example is infantile partners who behave like children. Moreover, next to an oral person, it is very easy to become infantile. His ability to guess and anticipate your desires is so well honed that you don't need to strain yourself and think about anything at all with him. He will do everything for you. Of course, the oral character really wants to hear at least elementary words of gratitude in response. But therein lies a trap. Children are ungrateful. They take care for granted. The oral character is training, he is fooling almost the entire family alone and receive nothing in return. Of course, one could get offended by them, but let's be honest. The oral character himself chose such partners. Well, and even he tried pretty hard so that the entire load fell on him. His partners do not even think that the oral character also wants something. He never talks about it, he only cares. It turns out that everything suits him, and he does not need anything for himself. But of course this is not true. This cycle of chronic hunger will repeat itself over and over again in the life of the oral character. But the necessary insurance works. It is better that the oral character will tense up once again, but he is guaranteed not to be abandoned. And they will not leave him because they are flawed. They themselves are not able to take care of themselves and to survive as well. That is how the oral character pays for his indispensability. It really is simply impossible to leave him, and he will somehow endure the rest. There is only one legal strategy for an oral character to get cared for legally and without the associated risks. He needs to get sick. Then, in his fantasy, everyone will have to appreciate his sacrifice and notice his fatigue. He still wants to take care of everyone, but is temporarily unable to do so. He unconsciously hopes that his partner will make the same decision that he himself made in the childhood, which means to become the parent for his parents. After all, everything is legal. You need to take care of the sick. But in reality, he often has to go through another disappointment. The partner of an oral character will not even think about switching roles temporarily. He is more likely to leave in search for a new nursing figure. And he will live harshly, with depreciation and accusation, which is why the oral character is absolutely crushed and destroyed. In contact with the oral character, not everyone is comfortable. If you have well built your own psychological boundaries, you will feel extremely uncomfortable. You will have the feeling that you are being treated like a baby, trying to pick you up and take care of you, although you did not ask for it. The oral character can be extremely obsessive and sticky. If he is interested in you, then he needs to feel your needs, guess them, so that at the right time, like a genie, appear in front of you with an already fulfilled wish. It will feel like he gets under your skin, looks into your mouth, and at the same time speaks lisping, as if you are not an adult but a small child. In therapy, next to an oral person, it is natural to feel furious and want to kick him. These are the feelings that the oral character himself experienced in childhood, when his parents did not guess or did not want to satisfy his needs. But how to kick him? After all, he is so good. And he certainly does not wish you any harm. He just wants to force-feed you, and for many, this causes a strong rejection. Very often, it is a mixture of rage and pity. So it becomes clearer why the oral character will choose helping professions, where his desire to warm everyone will not cause anger. There will be really those people who really need help. And what if they also thank the oral character for help? Then he can definitely take even more air into his chest and rush into the next rescue operation. Only, unfortunately, the inner feeling of hunger will not decrease. Of course, secretly, the oral character still wants to be taken care of. He does for others what he would like to receive in his address. But if you start taking care of him yourself, then most likely you will encounter strong resistance and even anger. This irritates the wound inside his psyche that appeared when his mother ignored his drawing as a child. It takes a lot of time and effort to restore this chronically disturbed give-and-take balance. But it is even more difficult for the oral character to regain the lost ability to recognize his own desires. He really doesn't know what he wants. It is easier for him to say what you want, and he will probably guess. But qualitative changes would be exactly to turn this sensitivity on himself, and this cannot be done easily and quickly. As a result, the oral character must be well and clearly aware that love does not need to be earned, that it is normal to love yourself. So far for him, these are seditious thoughts that awaken deeply hidden and compensated pain. But there is no other way to break free from this vicious scenario and finally get what the oral character so passionately and secretly longs for. If you are interested in this topic, I am glad to tell you that in August 2023, all this information will be published in the series of books called Psychology for Tarot Readers. There I will write not only about different characters, but I will also mention a lot of other psychological material, which is seldom described in books on tarot cards or astrology, but which to my mind is very useful for the consultants. Please subscribe and follow my social media in order to be informed about my projects and books. I hope that it will be very interesting for you and it will enrich your practice.